So, hi, my name is Katie Netter, a producer for Small Business Digest, and I am here with Linda Alvarez. Linda, as we ask all our guests on the show, can you tell us about your personal background, and about your company and website?
Yeah, of course. Firstly, thank you so much to both you and Don for having me on today. I'm really excited to share more about myself and our company through, your show. So it's really exciting. A little bit about me. So I never planned on being a small business owner. It kind of just happened. But I have training as a physician. So I had gone through medical school. I actually took a 1 year sabbatical during medical school to study nutrition, forms of complementary medicine, and medicinal plants, and really use that throughout my clinical career. So I worked in family medicine and then also did hospice palliative. And through my clinical work, I wanted to advocate more for my colleagues and our patients. And so I became very active in the physicians union. I ended up becoming the executive national secretary treasurer for the Committee of Interns and Residents, which is the largest physicians union in the country, and did that from 2019 up until the end of 2020. So leading that union through the pandemic. And something that I learned in that minor career pivot was that I wanted to expand my education. So in 2019, I went and pursued my executive MBA through Cornell. They have a fantastic program for people who are already professionals trying to advance their careers. And it was through that MBA, I knew that that was going to really help me find the next path in my career journey. I was thinking more so if I would probably do hospital administration or something along those lines. And my co-founder and I were teamed up together for a customer discovery and new innovations class. And through that course, we really discovered a very large hole in the market. So less than 2.5% of sports nutrition products target women with little clarity of if they're made for us or really just kind of focused on getting skinny or looking sexy. We also found, and using my background as a physician, that only 3% of participants in sports performance studies are women. And so we were really kind of upset with kind of what this discrepancy was within the research and the products on the market. And through that course, we spoke to over 100 female athletes, and we heard this resounding theme of real physical pain in response to current sports food products. And so that's really what drove us into creating Lavelle, which we are a sports food company focused on empowering female athletes with fuel formulated for their physiology. We make sports food products that are all real food. And because we really get rid of all of the high glycemic sugars and additives, our products are inherently safe for women at any age and any stage of their life cycle. So women that are pregnant, that are breastfeeding, that are changing medications can look at our ingredient label and know exactly what is in the product and feel confident taking it. So we just launched officially our first products with Lavelle this past April, so April 2023, which has been really exciting. But that journey all started with speaking to customers and kind of that whole progression of what it means to know a customer pain, develop a product, and test those products with customers to get something that you're really proud at landing on and putting out into market.
Wow, that's really interesting. So, can you elaborate a little bit more on why you decided to found Lavelle, and what did you see missing in the nutrition industry that inspired you to take this action?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, too, like I emphasized before, I was not planning on starting a food business. But my co-founder and I, before starting the company, we spoke to about 100 female athletes. We focused on marathoners. So, too, for anybody listening that is thinking about kind of how to develop or research new products, always go out and speak to a customer group and try to define that group as well as you can. So for us, we were focused on female marathoners. They were doing at least 1 to 2 half marathons a year. And what we heard consistently from women was that they were, one, going through boxes of product to find something that didn't make them physically sick. And when I say physically sick, these side effects range from, I would say, as mild as a headache to as severe as dizziness, muscle cramping, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea throughout the course of a 26.2-mile marathon. And these women had such dedication to their sport that they still kind of suffered through taking these products because there was nothing else out there or available for them. And what, compelled my co-founder and I, outside of hearing this repetitive theme, was that every single woman we spoke to felt as though it was her body that was the problem and not the products on the market. And that, for me, was really difficult to hear. Just, these were women of all different athletic levels. Some you would consider like a weekend warrior, others, based on their time trials for like were able to qualify for the Olympic teams. Like that's how elite athletes these women were. And all of them had this feeling as though it's my fault rather than the market. And so we wanted to create a company that allowed women to feel seen and heard while also educating the market in just what women really deserve in our products. And really, too, kind of like what we were able to find in interviewing so many women is that, we looked at then the products that were on market. We looked at those ingredients. We correlated that with the data that is out on women's nutrition and women's health. And we saw that there was this really big mismatch. So, something that a lot of people don't know, even a lot of athletes don't know, is that women, depending on where we are within our menstrual cycle and life cycle stages, we metabolize macronutrients. So those are carbs, proteins, and fats at different rates and at different thresholds than, let's say, our male counterparts. And the current body of products that are out there today don't address that. And so we wanted to make products that really spoke to women, that women felt safe taking, whether they were beginning their menstrual cycle, again, whether they're going through pregnancy. So that way there isn't this feeling as though I have to shop through boxes of product to find something that doesn't make me physically sick.
Mhm. So going off of that, how did you leverage your past experience to take this action and found your company? So yeah, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's I think too people get a little nervous about pivoting careers or changing kind of what is said to be their standard trajectory. But when you pivot, you're able to take all of those experiences that are unique to you throughout all of your past training and apply that into a space that maybe doesn't have that perspective. And so, I one of the first things that I didn't even realize that I was able to translate over was in our customer discovery. So, like I had mentioned before, now we've interviewed hundreds of women. But part of what I would do in those customer discovery interviews is I almost thought of them in the same way of how I would do a patient interview. And so, a patient, when you go see a doctor, sometimes they're not going to outright tell you exactly what's going on or what the problem is. but you have to use your skills in communication to better understand what that pain point is. And so we were able to do that during customer discovery. There are a lot of overlaps in terms of exercise physiology and pathology that I was able to use from my medical training into understanding products for athletes. And then I, as a hobby, love to cook. So I watch all of like the big food nerd shows like Elton Brown. I would always watch all of like the food science of like, and I also loved all of the History Channel shows that are like how it's made and understanding that kind of concept behind it. So it was really fun to go out and use my experience in nutrition, medicinal plants, and medicine to make real food products and kind of combining those two things in a way I would have never been able to imagine years ago through my career. So that's been incredibly fun. And I will say too, I am very thankful to have a co-founder. And so she also, we met during the MBA. She has a very different skill set than I have. And for her to also be able to apply her skills really makes us a well-rounded and complemented team. And so, too, I highly encourage starting a business is hard. Um, Being a CEO and a founder is very difficult. Not only is it, you have the responsibility to drive the company, the accountability of your products and services to customers, but to have somebody else that you can talk that through with and somebody else who can shine in areas that might be your weak points is, I think, one of the strongest aspects of our company because of that team that we have.
Hmm. So can you talk about some challenges that you faced throughout founding your business and what you did to overcome these challenges?
Yeah. So I feel like if you're building your business to growth, every new milestone you hit, every new chapter that you go into, there will be a new set of challenges and a new set of wins. And when you are in that stage, you think that this is the hardest challenge, and it's about kind of going through it and taking what you learned to use that to solve the challenges in the next phase. So actually, I am happy to show them. So right now, our first products are our energy purees. So we compete in the energy gel space. Energy gels are kind of like this weird science lab type of goos that are really manufactured, have a lot of high glycemic sugars, and are always in these single serve pouches. And so one of the challenges that we had was we knew how to make the product. It was getting it into a pouch this size and a pouch that worked with kind of all of the manufacturing processes we had to go through. And so actually, like, part of it that we did was we used different machines to make it semi-automated. So there are machines on market that will, mix everything, fill it, seal it, you're good to go. And for us, when we were starting out, it wasn't a possibility to buy that type of machine. We didn't have that type of capital up front. And so we had to sit down and figure out, how do we create a manufacturing line that still allows us to see profits? So that way at this stage, we can show our traction and get the funding that we need to grow to that next cycle of demand that requires us to have a larger machine. And so it's kind of you need to, in an essence, kind of take a step back and see, okay, even though this is my one solution, and that solution isn't attainable right now, how do I break that up so that way I'm able to problem solve now and get my product into market, which as a CPG company, like, that's always one of your biggest goals, is getting product into market and then retaining those customers.
I think that's such valuable advice for people that are attempting to start their own small business. So, what would you say, what's some advice that you would offer to small business owners who are attempting to do something similar than what you did?
I I think the biggest advice that I could give is to not be afraid to ask for help and to not be afraid of who you're asking help from. So something that I love within the small business and entrepreneurship space, which I didn't necessarily feel in medicine, was that there is this sense of community. We're all going through it. We know how difficult it is. And for us, for example, we couldn't have gotten to the place that we are now without the support of a founder community and a network of support. I came out of the medical space. I liked cooking, never made anything commercially and commercially safe for distribution. Same thing for my co-founder. She came from, the tech space. And so we had to figure out, how do we do this? How do we do this on our own while still retaining our intellectual property and our brand and our company? And so we reached out to other founders. We reached out to other businesses that were doing well. We reached out to different state and regional resources. There are so many of them based on what state you're in. And they do want to support new and small businesses. They want to support businesses that have been there for some time and need help in growing. So I highly encourage reaching out for help. And at least in the entrepreneurship community, and the way that I think of it, I don't ever think of that as a sign for weakness. I think of that as somebody as a good leader, somebody who is able to acknowledge where they need help and seek out that help. Because too, I'm sure that there are a lot of founders on here that are solo founders, and it's hard to do it all on your own. It's hard to be an expert in everything. It's in a lot of ways that's not feasible. So how do you create a network that supports your whole endeavor? So just even as like an example, we have support in manufacturing, we have support in product development and safety, we have support in distribution and kitting, we have support in marketing, kind of all of these things that when you think of a larger corporation, they're already able to have in-house. And they do that because they acknowledge that different people are experts in that. It's how are you able to develop almost like a ghost version of that for your small business? And it's through the network.
I think that's really interesting and valuable information. So this year was your first year at the Fancy Food Show. So can you talk a little bit about your experience with that?
Yeah, that was incredible. So talking about the network and working within that, I don't know if we would have been able to go to the Summer Fancy Food Show if it wasn't for our network. So we were actually in a space that was called the New Now Next area. It supported a lot of the companies that were either startups, first-time exhibitors, or part of incubators. And so we came as part of the Cornell Agritech and Center of Excellence in Food and Agriculture, because we work through the Cornell incubator. And that show was incredible. We weren't sure, for example, if it was the right show for us, if we were going to be a little too early, particularly because we just launched products into market in April. But it was the type of connections that we're going to continue to develop for years to come and set that trajectory for us to have that network of understanding how we need to prepare for the retail space. So I think, there were different buyers, for example, that I know at the stage that we're at is not necessarily the time for us to jump in with those buyers. But having that connection, I can work with them in understanding, hey, when we're taking this next step, what do I need to have in place to start those conversations of what a retail partnership would look like. At what level of demand do you see the most success for companies going in, and try to answer those questions. So for us, we use the show as really that launch point learning opportunity. And then something that I highly encourage to small business owners is doing these events too helps you get into it, what you get out what you put in. And so we always really take the time to make sure we're putting everything into each event, to talk to as many people as we can. And through that, we're able to get some amazing press as well, which, the more press you can get as a small business, the better. And part of what I like encouraging other founders and small business owners too is that there are so many opportunities for you to get press that doesn't require you to pay for press or to pay for ads. And it's about going out and finding it. I'm going to sound like a broken record. It's about going out and networking. It's about sharing your product as much as you can with that community, and you'll be able to gain traction and media through that. But the show itself was incredible. And it was incredible too, to be able to meet other business owners and founders at different stages. So that way, like we identified, I think, partner companies or other startups that were maybe a couple of years ahead of us. And those were great people to speak to. So that way we can understand what challenges they dealt with, and really work off of their feedback, to as well other larger companies that are, like a goal for us in like 5 to 7 years. To have them as part of our network too is now just really exciting. And just, again, I encourage you learn so much from those people around you that going to as many of these events as you can is so worthwhile for your business.
I think it's such a great opportunity for businesses like yours. So you would definitely recommend small business owners or people entering the small business who want to start a small business to look into the fancy food show.
Definitely. Especially too, I was surprised at all of the types of buyers that are there. So you think of the larger retailer buyers, right? But then kind of some of like the smaller convenience chains, they will be there. Some of the corporate health food systems, some of, even kind of like the healthcare systems, all of these different companies that supply food for their employees or their customers are looking at these types of shows in order to know what's next and what's that trend. And so if you can get there and be engaging and kind of set yourself apart, it's really worth the investment.
Yeah, I think it's such a great opportunity. So, going off of that, you mentioned that your business is very women focused and made for women. So, what advice would you give to female small business owners or women who want to start a product or a company like that? What advice would you give women to enter that kind of industry and create a product that will help women?
Do it. Go
Mhm.
out and do it. Like that's the biggest. I think too, sometimes I don't want to make an overgeneralization, but sometimes as women, we're so self-aware that we then don't, we sometimes discredit our own accomplishments or don't really, I think, hold on to and assert the status of how good our ideas are, how valid they are. Women are some of the more successful founders, kind of when you look at some of the different VC data that's out. And so it's a great investment to invest in women. And I want other women to know that they can do it and that they're worthy enough to do it and they're strong and capable enough to do it. Um, and the data supports that too. And so anytime you as a female founder, like, you feel as though you're not having that support, like look and look at the data that's out there and use that as part of your pitch. When we first started Lavelle, and actually if I could plug our website, you can visit us at levelle.com, Levelle, or levelnutrition.com. Both will take you there. But when we started, we would do so many pitches and talk about making products for women. And always I would get as one of the last questions, well, like, this is great, but how many women are really athletes, or how many women are consuming these products? And so now I've included slides that show really the consumer buying power of women. Women make up over 70 to 80% of the purchasing decisions for their household, as per the US Department of Labor. They also are the largest purchasers of nutrition supplement and foods. So like for us, we're able to show this type of data, but highly encouraging women to go out, start their businesses.
Yeah, I think that's such important information, and very encouraging. So our last question to guests on the show is always, what would you like to leave the audience with? And also please plug where our audience can find your product as well.
Yeah. So you can find our products at levelle.com. Again, Levelle. We highly encourage people to reach out to, there's actually like a contact or reach out to us form on our website. Like, please do. We love connecting with athletes, with other women that are inspired by what we're doing, with other founders. So don't hesitate to reach out. And I think, the big thing that I would want to leave other founders with is that, and I'll sound like a broken record, but it's your network, and knowing that you're not alone in this space, and that there is an amazing network of other entrepreneurs, small business owners, small business leaders that are excited to help entrepreneurs in this space. And so I'm part of that. Please, if you ever want to reach out, you can find us on our levelle.com website. But I think that's my biggest takeaway, my biggest piece of advice.
Thank you so much for all of that. So we're out of time, unfortunately, but it was great talking with you.
It was great speaking with you too. Thank you.